Just a few more questions here this morning. The issue of the advisory committees you just raised, Mr. Secretary. I know that with regards to the various advisory boards and various advisory councils out there, you had conducted a review of the same. I hear from people in the state, they want a process that allows for their input. Yesterday, a report came out announcing that BLM has renewed the charters of 21 BLM Resource Advisory Councils, which had temporarily been suspended. Can you give us just a quick update here on your national review process for both these internal and external panels, and give us some sense in terms of timeline as to what folks might be expecting getting back to regular meeting schedules?
It is. When I assumed the position, I have over 200 advisory boards. 200. And so here's what I asked. As I said, tell me who's on your board. Tell me what you've done the last 2 years. Tell me what your expectations are in the next 2 years. Tell me what your mission statement is and your budget.
Reasonable so far.
And what I did is I suspended everyone until they could provide that little information, because I want to know. Because I think a lot of these boards are meaningful, and those that did not provide that were in suspension. We contacted everyone. Where we are to date is that they can meet again. But I think it was a reasonable expectation to ask people on some of these boards, what do you do? Who's on your board? What your goals are? To give me, if they need assistance. And a lot of these boards are volunteers. We do pay about $10 million a year, I guess, on administrative costs. But a lot of the boards require an enormous amount of commitment, time. One is I want to know who's on it, and what can I do as a secretary to help them on it. And if they can't answer those 5 questions, maybe we need to review what the leadership is in those boards, or review whether their boards are important or not, if they're not doing anything. And as it turns out, I think we're pretty good at the boards we have now, and we're issuing our reports, and they're coming back to us with reports as they meet what their goals. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we are in our boards.
Good. Certainly seems reasonable to do an analysis every while and again to just, as you say, see who's there and what folks are doing. I mentioned in my opening statement mineral security and my appreciation not only for the executive order from President Trump, but also your secretarial order on mineral security. You've got $19 million within your budget. I know that we need an awful lot more to just map out the country here, but given that you are putting this priority within the budget, how do you see a process for these funds, and what steps are you taking within the department to address some of the mineral supply chain issues that we've been raising here?
Well, thank you for the question. As you know, the USGS delivered a critical minerals report. America should read it. Because they would
find out how vulnerable we are.
We really are, and as a former SEAL, the number of components that a modern warrior has that we rely on overseas for a lot of it is a national security issue. And also the USGS, hasn't prioritized and focused on basic field mapping in a long time. We think we can get there using new and modern technology, UAVs, magnetometers. So 20 years ago, when you set out to field map a lot of areas, it was labor intensive. It's going to be a long time. Modern technology, modern techniques, particularly with the UAVs, we can catch up quickly. But the USGS has to prioritize this. It is in their national interest to do so. And some of the techniques, quite frankly, are flying over with magnetometers because the best field geologists won't be able to see what's below the surface. So as a geologist, I'm pretty confident that we can catch up, and we're going to focus on the areas that we think are the best value and the greatest potential. It'll be a long time, States. What I can tell you, when you look at our current mapping in North America, Canada's done a pretty good job. And when it gets to the border, it stops. So we also have to look at critical minerals and make sure we do our part of mapping the lower 48 and Alaska. And there's great opportunity there. But again, it's innovation, best science, best practices, greatest good, longer term.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we've heard in this committee that we've actually helped other countries do their mapping so that they have a better understanding, and yet we're still deficient here in this country. So I appreciate the prioritization.